Hi everyone, today's video is a book haul and I'm going to title this Inspiration Books because they're books that are visually really interesting and inspire me to create art. As well as being an avid reader, I am a book designer and I do a lot of my own illustration in that, so I'm always looking for new ideas and things that I can draw inspiration from. So this first book is one that I have been wanting to buy since it came out and I've been putting it off, and finally now I am set up here in the UK, and because it's quite a big book I thought it was time to buy it. And the book is Animalium and the illustrations in this are done by Katie Scott, who is such a talented illustrator and I absolutely adore the stuff that she does. She's well worth looking up on Instagram as well. So this is one of these Welcome to the Museum books, and there are a few of these now. And opening this book is like walking into a museum. It has a real pre-Victorian, Victorian vibe. It starts with these absolutely lovely end papers. And we have this spread here which gives you an overview of evolution and the way that these different animals and creatures are connected. The beginning of each section looks like this, so you have one paper like the end paper. On one side you have the title and we illustration, as you can see, and here I'll just show you some of my particular favourite pages. Like I said, the use of colour is just fantastic. It's quite a muted colour palette, but then there are some highlighted colours which I think is so effective, and it really reflects the natural world and also the period that this is referencing. Perhaps my favourite pages though are the ones where you have a bell jar such as this one, and inside the bell jar there's a mini habitat and illustrations of these animals within their kind of natural habitat as opposed to in this grid style. And I just think that that adds that extra something to the book, makes it really visually interesting, and so not every page is the same in its layout. On the main pages the composition is just so beautifully done. I love the way that she has shaped some of these animals and sort of bent them out of shape a little bit. She does all of this line work by hand and then she scans in those images and colours it digitally. And that's something that I do in a lot of my work as well, so I find that very interesting as a process. So that was Animalium by Katie Scott and Jenny Broom, and I am so very excited because Katie Scott has a new one of these coming out in September and it's called Botanicum. I had a sneaky peek of it at the London Book Fair and it looks absolutely fantastic, so I will try to get hold of a review copy, and if I can't then I'll be reviewing it in September when it comes out, but hopefully I can get it before then and share it with you guys. The second book, much to my surprise, is a colouring book, but I just absolutely adore the illustrations in this as well. This is by Adriana Picker and it's called Garden of Earthly Delights. And from the get-go you've got this fantastic cover, and it's really unlike other colouring books in that you've got this black with the white on top, and then you've got a gold foil on some of those features there. I just think that's so very effective. You've got this beautiful hand lettering in the centre here, and inside it continues in its brilliance. Her level of detail and her use of different compositions just makes this really visually interesting. I love how unusual some of these forms are, and she's gone for quite strange and wonderful plants. She also makes really good use of white space, so while some pages are very, very full, other pages just are quite empty, and you've got just these few features and then a large area of white space. Once again, I love the styles and techniques that she uses in this, and she actually has a new book coming out very soon as well, and I believe that one is based on Australian wildflowers, so again I will be trying to get my hands on that as soon as I can. Now I don't actually plan to colour any of these pages because I think they're just so immaculate as black and white drawings, and I can glean so much inspiration from this as it is. Next up we have this little wee book which is Illustrations of Marians Butterflies. This is a book of illustrations by Maria Sibylla Marian, and she was an artist and entomologist in the late 1600s and early 1700s. And as a female artist and entomologist, she was quite unusual, and I think that makes her particularly interesting. I love the way that she kind of warps some of these forms a bit. So these really have a sense of creativity and artistry in there, and they're not just straight scientific drawings. I think the colour palette in this is really fun as well, lots of really bright colours and a really great sense of texture as well. Alright, next up are two books that I picked up from the Victoria and Albert Museum, which I visited the other day, and the first one is a little book of William Morris prints, and I'm a big fan of William Morris. Any sort of pattern designer is going to be a huge fan of William Morris, I think. And even if you're not a fan, you're going to be influenced by his style in one way or another. So it's just a little book, but it has these swatches of different patterns that he designed, and it has the date and the name of the pattern. And William Morris was just so very good at proportion and composition within his designs, and doing these repeat patterns that are highly enviable as a pattern designer. The second one is one that I have been looking for a while, and when I saw it in the V&A I knew that it was coming home with me. This is Ernest Hegel's Art Forms in Nature, and you've probably seen some of these illustrations around. They're now out of copyright, so they're used on quite a lot of different things. In fact, one of his designs was used on the end papers of one of the books that I showed in a video a couple of videos ago. A lot of the pages in this are kind of black and white illustrations, and as suggested by the title, they are art forms taken from nature. So a lot of these are botanical, and you've also got kind of microscopic things. And you've got really beautiful spreads like this one, and this one, and this one. And as you can see, there's a lot to be learned from these designs. The way that composition is used, as well as the beautiful use of colour in these colour plates. The final one is a bit out of the box, and I visited the Horniman Museum the other day, which is in the southeast of London, and it is full of weird and wonderful taxidermy, and they had this book. This is a Thames and Hudson title called Taxidermy, and I have been looking at this book for a while. I have a really strange fascination with taxidermy, and I'm not sure why. I think it's possibly to do with my fascination with the Victorian fascination with death and sort of preserving things in really weird ways. So that's to do with photography and also to do with preserving animals in taxidermy. I should probably add that this is not something that I would want in my own home. I just find it really fascinating in a weird way, and I think that aesthetically it's very interesting. But I would find it very unsettling to actually have dead animals all around me. So this book has 7 different sections, and the first section is all about museums and displays of taxidermy in museums. The next one is about the use of taxidermy in interiors. The third one is anthropomorphic taxidermy, where animals are made to look like humans. The next is zoomorphic, where taxidermy animals are made into things which are useful. Chapter 5 is freaks and fakes, where weird blends of different animals are created through the use of taxidermy. Chapter 6 is about commercial taxidermy, and the final chapter is all about art and fashion. And it includes one of my favourite artists, Polly Morgan, and I'll show some of her images here because they are just absolutely beautiful. And again, it's this really strange mix of beauty and kind of morbidity, but I just think she has the most wonderful sense of creativity. Taxidermy is also a really good way of practicing life drawing, so if you can go to a museum like the Horniman, which has lots of taxidermy there, then it's a great place for sketching because the animals aren't going to move, but they are 3-dimensional, and even if some of the taxidermy isn't the best taxidermy and they don't necessarily look as lifelike as they could, there's still a lot to be gained from doing studies like that. So those are all the books that I had to share today. As you've probably noticed, there's a bit of a animal and kind of botanical theme going on there. A lot of kind of scientific art, and that ties in with my most recent obsession, which is to do with scientific drawing and discovery. And I've been reading a lot of novels along these lines as well, as you will see in my April wrap-up, which will be coming soon. That's it for today. If you want to find me elsewhere online, I am at Holly Dunn Design on Instagram, Pinterest and Twitter. If you want to see my design portfolio, it is hollydundesign.com. As always, thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye! Expanding into the space left by the men. Without visibly changing, they unfolded like flowers or knives.